Hey everyone, this is a review of Ego's Gen 2 Powerhead for their multi-headed system, so you can do string trimmers, edgers, snow blowers, pole saws, all that kind of stuff with a bunch of their different attachments. So this powers all of those. I'm going to compare it to their original Gen 1 Powerhead as well as my string trimmer. I'll cover functions this has and what I like about it, what I don't like about it. When I'm using the Powerhead as a string trimmer, it can go just as fast as I can. Basically, the limiting factor is my walking speed and me controlling it versus it having enough power. So it has plenty of power. I can't keep up with it. I'm the limiting factor here. My neighborhood's still under construction, so the center island area is completely covered in weeds. And I took this thing out in the middle of it, and you can see it just mows stuff down with no problem. As far as batteries go, this thing takes any of the Ego 56-volt batteries. I think it comes with a 4 amp hour battery. I've got a 5 amp hour on it right now. That's what I usually run on it. To pull the battery off, just hit this button right here. One thing I love about all the Ego tools is anything that you're supposed to interact with is green. Up here on this part, you've got your speed control. You hit it once, it shows you what speed you're at. You hit it again, you can adjust it. So this is just a max level speed control. When you're running this, the trigger is also variable speed. The trigger has a safety on it, which is necessary for all of the more dangerous tools that you use with this. I don't love it, but I got used to it after using it for a season. You push forward and pull. That's all there is to it. There's nothing else to push on the side like the old Gen 1. Right here, you've got your tether point. This is reinforced with metal right here, and there's a knob on this side, just a little thumb screw. You can go ahead and adjust that wherever you want and then tighten it back down. Completely toolless, no tools needed. And this comes with a shoulder strap. It's a single point shoulder strap that just clicks into here. The Gen 2 comes with this. The Gen 1 did not. That's an upgrade you get with the Gen 2 that you don't get with the Gen 1. I like that they added this in. You've got your front grip up here. It's nice and cushioned. And up front, you'll notice anything green, I said, adjusts. So you can grab that and slide it up and down, or turn it if you want to edge, and then when you've got it in place, you can lock it back down. Now, if this is too loose and slipping and sliding around, there's this thumb screw on the back right here. You can tighten or loosen that if you need to, and then clamp it down to get a good clamp. To remove or install attachments, you've just got this green thumb screw right here. You loosen it up, and then you push this silver button, and the whole thing comes out. You'll notice there's a red line. It's supposed to get up to that red line when you put it in. Sometimes when you're putting this in, it won't go in much farther, and you kind of got to wiggle it back and forth and then get the splines to line up, and then it'll pop down. You can see you're right up against that red line. You see the button pop out, you tighten this down, and you are good to go. When I got this, I bought the kit that comes with the new power load head, so that allows you to use it as a string trimmer and still have the power load functionality. That's something you can't do with the Gen 1 system. Only the Gen 2 will do this power load head. As far as I know, all other attachments currently they make are backwards and forwards compatible between the two, except for this one. All right, when you're getting ready to load your line with the power load, you just go ahead and push this head down a little bit. You can kind of turn it and see when you get an opening. When you get an opening like that, I just push it down, feed the line in, and it comes out the other side. So just keep pulling until you're half and half. Just measure the two ends. All right, and you just take this button and hit it, and it loads it all up. That is so nice. You don't have to sit there and twist this 100 times. The machine does it for you. And then once you've got it to the right length, you just bump it back out and the guard will cut it off to the right length. Now, one really cool addition to this head that I have never seen before is this spinner right here. I've never seen that on any other weed eater. It might exist somewhere else, but that's the first time I've seen it on an Ego one. And what this does when you're using the bump feed, you've all seen like a super old weed eater head that's like almost gone because you've bumped it on concrete too many times or on rocks or something abrasive. So what this one does, when you bump it, this will stop, the whole head will keep spinning, and you don't wear anything down because that allows the force to transfer in here to activate the bump feed, but it's not rubbing the whole time you're in contact with the ground. I really, really like this. It seems to be holding up well so far. If you do have a problem with a line jam or you wind your line too far and it goes inside the head, see these two buttons on the side? There's one on each end. You just squeeze them in and pull the whole head apart. Make sure you don't lose the spring that sits right in there. And you can pull your line out, untangle it, and then reload it. It's that simple. It's all you have to do. With that 5 amp hour battery on my 1/6 of an acre, I usually weed and edge all my sidewalk, weed eat and edge all my sidewalk, and I have about half the battery left. So that does eat a little bit more battery than a regular string trimmer does, just because this has a more powerful motor in it, because you've got to be able to run things that require a lot more power, like the edger, the snowblower, you know, the pole saw. All that stuff takes a lot more power than just a weed eater. Power-wise, this Gen 2 head is absolutely fantastic. It absolutely rips through everything. I've tried it on with a string trimmer. It does great with the edger. I'm really impressed by the power this has. So let's talk comparisons between the Powerhead and a regular weed eater. I've had this thing for about 5 years. It's still held up great, still runs fine. This is a little bit lighter feeling than the Powerhead. So there's just less going on here. The motor is in the end right here, which I don't love. I feel like that's actually, you know, that's where all the dirt and grime, you can see this thing is just caked over. In the Powerhead, the motor's obviously in the back, which I think is much better for the durability of the motor, so it's not down on the business end getting all disgusting. Although this has worked 5 years, no problems for me, so I guess the motor's fine there. One big difference between a regular weed eater and the Powerhead is the Powerhead has a lot more vibration. Now this is a 16-inch cutting swath, and I think this is a 14 or a 15, so it's not quite as much line out there to vibrate, but you don't have a drive shaft running through the whole thing with this. It's just the motor at the end. So you feel a lot less vibration than you do with the Powerhead, which the motor is back here, so you feel that vibration, and then you've got a drive shaft running the whole length of it, so you feel vibration from the drive shaft as well as the cutting head. So there's a lot more vibration in this. It doesn't really bother me for the maybe 20 minutes I spend using it, 20-25 minutes I spend using it every time I mow my yard. But if you're going to be using a string trimmer for an extended period of time, you might want to stick with a regular weed eater and use the Powerhead for something else, because there's a lot less vibration on it. You're going to get a lot less fatigue if you're using this all day. Now, something I noticed right away when I started using these, this string trimmer, the head, if you're looking at the top of it, turns clockwise. This attachment, the power load attachment, spins counterclockwise. Now, that doesn't really matter when you're weed eating, I think. I got used to it pretty quickly, but where it kind of threw me off, I edged all the time with this thing, and it's second nature. I can do it pretty easily. For some reason, the head turning the other way just completely throws me off. I probably just need to get used to it if I want to edge with that, but it doesn't really matter because I have the edger attachment, so I don't really use this thing for edging anymore. All right, so let's compare the Gen 1 and the Gen 2 Powerheads together. This one, it's got a manual switch right here. This one's electronic. Doesn't really bother. This is a little bit hard to actuate though. So I think this is a little bit nicer, but functionality, they do the same thing. Now the motor in the Gen 2 is a little bit more powerful than that of the Gen 1. And the main place I see this is when I'm running my edger attachment. It is easier to stall in the Gen 1 than it is in the Gen 2. I've stalled it in both of them, but I feel like I've got a little bit more power, not much more, but a little bit more power in the Gen 2. Now the triggers on both of these are a little bit different. This one has a trigger safety like this, and then you pull down. I got used to it. I didn't like it at first, but I got used to doing it. It's second nature now. This one has a little thumb spot, and then you pull it right here. This one is great for right-handers, not so much for left-handers. So they made an improvement here to make it more usable for their entire user base rather than just right-handed people. Another nice thing about the Gen 2, they've pretty much got the same ergonomics for the handle, but this one is adjustable without any extra tools. This one, you've got to have an Allen wrench. You've got to loosen 4 bolts, move it around, and then reattach it with those Allen keys. So this one is much more friendly if you're reconfiguring it on the fly. If you want to do edging with it without an edger, with just the string trimmer, you can turn this handle 90 degrees if you want. You can't do that easily with this one. And of course, you've got carbon fiber on the Gen 2 and regular aluminum on the Gen 1. Honestly, I can't really feel a weight difference at all, so I don't know if that makes much of a difference other than looking cool. When you're looking in the end of both of these, you'll notice this one has some extra cutouts while this one doesn't. And what those are for is these detents right here, which I believe are also the electrical contacts for the power head right here, the string trimmer power head, because the other attachments I have don't have these. So these, make sure you keep it aligned when you're putting it in, and also make contact with these plates. There's some plates inside down there that I believe are the receivers for these contacts, which allows you to have a simple circuit there. So this one will physically not fit inside of here because it doesn't have those extra grooves in the side. As far as edging goes, it's about as fast as I can walk for this thing to keep up with me. I've got it set on pretty much the maximum depth. I did mention it stalled a few times. That's on the initial run with overgrown edges. For maintenance mode that I'm doing like once every 2 weeks, this thing has no problem keeping up with me. Plenty of power for that application. Now the edger attachment I really like. It's got a guide right here that goes against your concrete that keeps you from running the blade into the concrete. It's just got a standard little, I believe it's an 8-inch blade that spins, and then it's got a wheel, and you can adjust the height of this for how it sits on the ground. It works really well. For the most part, I use this when I'm edging because it's so easy to swap between the two of them. I used to be a big fan of not having an edger and just using a string trimmer, but I found this is so much more consistent and I can do it faster without risking messing up that I use this every time now. So in summary for this attachment, do you need it? No. Is it really nice to have it? Yes. So overall, I am super happy with this new Gen 2 Powerhead. I love the power load feature of the string trimmer attachment that comes with it, and I definitely would get it again.